On program.
Well, hey, everybody. We're skipping the formality. We're skipping the intro. We're jumping right in. We're live. Usually I am in a hotel for this, but mercifully I am home. And so I'm joined with my dear friend Michael here, as you can see.
What up?
Oh, man. So we just got done with this. Yeah. All right. So I'm not going to spoil anything right yet. We're going to do it like normal, spoiler free, and then dive in. So you know the drill. You know the drill. Man, oh man, oh man. Okay, spoiler-free thoughts. Michael, why don't you go first?
Oh man, so good. Like, I think for the most part, this is gonna be one of the fan favorite episodes of this series. If it gets better than this, I'm just here for it. But honestly, I think it's gonna be hard to top some of what we saw in this episode. Um, I think little in terms of controversy. We'll get into it. There's a couple things that happen at the very end that might cause some people to have some questions and thoughts. I have some questions and thoughts, but for the most part, dude, just so good. Just like, yeah, no spoilers, I guess, at this point, but so good.
Yeah. No, that's similar to where I'm at. I'm still trying to put things back together. But I'll say that, and I mean that emotionally, not in any sense of a plot. I'm not spoiling anything, but golly, man, this is Star Wars. This is what it can be. And as much as I love the super gritty, quasi realistic, as much as I can throw that word around, side of Star Wars, when you got your Andors and things like that, this half, man, it just reminds you of what Star Wars can be and what it can do. And Dave Filoni,
I
you're a legend.
hesitate I hesitate to even say this, but I would argue this is like fan service almost, but the best kind of fan service. Like this is Star Wars through and through, like you said, but like in the way that I feel like it's going to be really hard for people to really be mad about what just happened in this episode. Like there's plenty of things that people nitpick here and there, but this was just it was so good. This was a good one.
I felt things, man. I mean, I'm watching it with Lauren, and I just said, she was trying to make sense of what was going on, and she got a good bit of it. But there were some things I was just like, hey, it's not on you to react this way, but I need to do this, and I did. Okay, so spoiler free. We liked it. It was great. It was, probably on one of those seminal episodes that we'll be rewatching and reacting to later on. So go watch it yourself. I don't know why we do this, and everybody's watched it already. But all right, spoiler time. Like the whole episode was amazing, right? The whole episode was great, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got so much to say. This was awesome. I love Star Wars. It makes me feel things. I love where Star Wars is going. I love the fandom. I can't wait for everybody to talk about this. I love this so much. This is great. And then the end, and I just died. Like I died. That's it. I told Lauren, I said, hold on. And I stood up and I walked right up to the screen, because as soon as I saw what was going on, I thought one of two things. I thought either Anakin's Force Ghost had caught her, or I thought she was in the world between worlds, and of course was the latter one. And so I was like, well, we're gonna see Anakin. Like, there's no one else we're gonna see. And then you hear snips, and it's just freaking
No delayed
gratification,
just immediate, just done.
No,
right
and,
there.
and they fixed it. They fixed the de-aging. He looked
better. Still a lot of makeup, but he looks better.
I mean, just like I have nothing. Like I maybe people nitpick or whatever, but like this is why I wanted to do this. Like the reactions are like just like I don't like let future know that if there are things that I end up wanting to change about this, or I have other emotions later on, fine. But it made me feel like this. So that's what's most important.
There you
You
go.
know what I mean?
There you
It's like,
go.
that's why we do this. That's why we have
Yeah.
podcasts in the middle of the night. That's why I bring tripods to make videos for no one in hotels. That's why we do this, because of the feeling that episodes like this
Oh, good.
give. All right,
I feel like
that's
this.
me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say this episode had a really good habit of setting something up and paying out on it directly as expected. Not like it was predictable, but like even just in the beginning, we're like, oh, Huang's outside the spaceship, and the HK droids are like sneaking up, and I'm like, we've seen Huang basically lightsaber fight a few times. I wouldn't mind seeing a Huang versus HK fight. That'd be kind of cool. And then like 30 seconds later, like, okay, great. I mean, I have some questions about why they didn't just shoot him, but still, I was like, I wanted it, and it happened, so I can't really complain. Here we go.
Yep.
Man, it even Sabine sort of giving in to the temptation of like finding Ezra, right? There's a point at which you're like, oh, this is so cliche, don't do it, this is like such an obvious trap. But then you're like, no, this is so Star Wars. Like, this feels copy paste plot out of Clone Wars or Rebels exactly the way it should be. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll be mad if she doesn't take it, unless she just shoots it after she puts the map into his hand and shoots his hand. That would have been kind of funny. But I can't be mad about the fact that it did exactly what I was like, yeah, this is perfect. This is set up. This is exactly what I expect to happen, and this is great. Not predictable, just well written. I think it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it's so hard to quantify, because I'm not going to sit here and say it was like, the same emotion that I felt after Andor. Where after Andor, I was like, I am glad that Star Wars is this good from a critical sense, right?
Hmm.
With this one, I'm just like, I'm just glad I got to see it, right? It's
Right.
the same sort of vibe as like Infinity War or Endgame, right? Like those movies, yeah, I've soured on Marvel,
Yeah.
I've soured on a lot of it, right? But like it's just, it just makes you feel stuff. I don't know, it's just good. Like if you've been there and you're watching the Iron Man, like I don't know, I can't remove myself from this fandom perspective completely. And I don't know if it's limbic, I don't know if I'm getting played with or whatever, but it's just like, it's awesome. It's just
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. There are shows that are objectively like good with cinematography. There's good story writing. There's things like that. I don't think that a lot of Star Wars, even the original movie, as much as I love Star Wars the original movie, it's fairly straightforward. It's fairly rote in the way that it sort of sticks to archetypes and things, and so there's a lot of criticism that can be made for its simplicity and all that. But like, I love it. I love it to death. Love every aspect of it. I love it because of that. And in the
Yep.
same way, like you said, like no one's going to argue that Infinity War and Endgame were like the best movies of all time. But I mean, we all enjoyed them when they came out. They were pretty darn fun.
Yep.
They were what they were, and this is exactly the same kind of boat. Like
That's
this is
why I
Star Wars
always
through and through.
say I love a thing that knows what it is. And
Yeah.
this knows what it is. And it's, I mean, this is the most Star Wars, right? The most Lucasy, the most prequels blending with originals. It's so great. And it just,
So
I loved it, man. God.
I think it goes further than that, actually, because we've
Okay.
sort of talked about loosely what is Star Wars to us, and I think that this is even more Star Wars because it is not just Lucasy. I think it's more Star Wars because it does such a good job of bringing in the elements from the cartoons, which I know, like a lot of Clone Wars was Lucas as well, but Rebels is not necessarily, not technically.
You're
It's
right.
it's
You're right.
Filoni's kind of baby, and because
Hmm.
this does such a good job at kind of hitting the whole of Star Wars, it pulls all this stuff together. Like the world between worlds. If all you ever watch the original trilogy and you see the world between worlds, you're like, that's not Star Wars. What the heck? But to those of us who know, we're like, this is Star Wars. This is it. And it's all coming together, as one big cohesive, beautiful, beautiful seed. So love it.
And look, this could not stick the landing, right? This take could age like milk. We said that, but at the end of the day, I feel like this now, and I'm just gonna enjoy it. Like I've been here. It's sort of like the sequel trilogy, right? Where it's like Rise of Skywalker happened, and I hated it, but Last Jedi made me feel great, and I'll
Like me
never.
enjoying the last Jurassic World movie.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you enjoy that, man. I hope you have fun. Um, but it's like
I
I
stand by my
never.
enjoyment.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you had fun. I never want to take that away from you. No, it's okay. Let's attempt to remove ourselves from this reverie and try to point out some moments other than the ending that we really really liked, and then we'll spend some more time on the ending, and then of course we'll do this all again tomorrow with the full crew and have a bit more notes. And for, I don't know if you're free, I don't think you are, but anybody else who's able to make it, we'll figure it out. All right. um Starting in the beginning, let's talk about your droid fight. They released a clip of that earlier today, so I knew that was coming, and I was just kind of like, man, if they released this already, I bet
Yeah,
this one's
what
going to
else
be a
is here?
banger. Yeah,
Yeah.
and sure enough. But all right, what'd you think
So
of the
so
the droids?
so actually rolling back a little bit, this is the second time we've heard Ahsoka and or her crew referred to as Fulcrum, which I think is kind of interesting because last we saw that mantle, it was kind of handed off to Callus. So
Hmm.
just as a passing sort of, I'm like, oh, I wonder where Callus is during all this stuff, and that'd be really cool to see him. I've mentioned that before. I think it'd be really cool to see him in live action
It would.
somehow. Be interesting to see how they do casting. But anyway, just as like I don't want to call it a negative thing, and this is really funny that I would be the person to bring this up, but I feel like this episode in particular had a lot of the male gaze kind of thing going on. Like there were like 8 different butt shots, like angled up, and I was like, this is kind of weird. Like my wife and I both watching this, are like, what is why are we looking at this angle? What is this? What is this doing for the shot? Like it's kind of odd. It's weird for this show for that to be the case too. You kind of addressed sort of like the feminism aspect of this show and how it's generally
Hmm.
positive, but like I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, huh. Of all the things in all the shows, we're like, why are we staring at Sabine's butt in every single shot? What is going on? Um, but as like an only weird, like a weird sort of pseudo negative, because I'm just I'm on the internet, so I see every single person taking every chance they can get for everything, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of material here. Good job, guys. Probably intentional, just because how it's being made. But anyway, the Huang versus HK shot was cool. I was kind of hoping he was going to whip out lightsabers, because that would have been interesting. Not sure why they didn't just shoot him. They decided to fight, hand to hand. But at the same time, I'm like, I wanted this. I as soon as they sort of insinuated that might happen, I'm like, I want to see Huang fight back because he should be able to fight back. There's no reason he couldn't. So anyway,
Yeah, no, it
opening
was
shot
interesting.
thoughts.
No, yeah, for sure. I'll address the Hu Yang thing first. I think I laughed. I was enjoying it. I had seen a bit of it on the clip released earlier, so I was I was along for the ride. But then Lauren said, "Oh, it's Rock'em Sock'em Robots," and I kind of had a good laugh about that. It was like, yeah, you're not wrong. But I see HK-47 spiritual successor fighting a 25,000-year-old pre-republic robot, and I'm like, this is awesome. But it's Rock'em Sock'em Robots, fair enough. As relates to the butt shots, I, I didn't catch it, and I
Go back
don't
and watch it.
blame
You
you.
won't unsee it.
I no, fair enough, right? And you're exactly right. And as the resident, whatever you want to call it, I agree wholeheartedly that the male gaze, whatever other aspects of it, without getting too into the weeds, it does permeate society, and it's everywhere. And it is why we can't have nice things, because the whole time I was thinking uh how progressive it was. I really just really enjoyed seeing all these different female characters um talking at length about so many different things, just having such evolved emotion, not like just quips about their femininity, not like being comfortable showing anger, being comfortable showing all kinds of different emotions. um I of course, we're the wrong people to talk about this. We'd need an Andy or someone else.
I
but um
know.
but I really appreciated it. Like I've said from week one of this, it smashes the hell out of the Bechtel test, which you know I just love, because Star Wars fails things like that fairly regularly. So it's kind of nice. Um, I really appreciated the characterization in this episode, from top to bottom, and that includes Shin Hati. Watching her and Sabine and just all the different characterization, and the warnings, like you said, to speak to setups and follow through. Hu Yang says, "Stay together. It works best that way." And
Yeah,
of course,
foreshadowing. We
the
all knew it was going to
yeah,
happen.
right, right, right.
Immediately
Um,
separated.
yeah, and they can blame it on circumstance. They had to, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, they were exactly right. It wasn't fortuitous for sure. What do you think about a lot of the action sequences that follow? Because pretty much this was an action episode. There wasn't a whole
Yeah, it
lot of
was.
lore.
That's why I
There wasn't.
said fan
It's
service,
just
man.
yeah. I mean, so just let's go one by one, I guess, each fight, and I'll let you kind of talk. I've got some thoughts, but yeah, just go ahead. Start with the respective masters and apprentices fighting
Yeah.
in the
So
forest.
you had the Huang fight, which was sort of brief, and then Sabine and Ahsoka
Mhm.
kind of roll out. And I say roll out because there was a lot of unnecessary rolling from Sabine, but otherwise it was really good. There's just a lot of like, why are you doing this? But we got to see her do the Mando thing, blocking shots
Mhm.
with her Beskar. I was kind of under the impression her Beskar was an alloy, not full Beskar, but I don't know, maybe not. She does say it was kind of passed down through her family, so that was interesting. Loved those shots. Loved the sort of separate one-on-one fight with Marok and Shin. I don't think I'm getting too far ahead of the plot there.
No,
Did
don't
we
go further
see?
than that though. Yeah.
Yeah, did we see when Sabine starts just like hammering Shin with blaster bolts? I need to go back and watch, but I could swear that we saw blaster bolts either bounce off or hit her on her armor and make that ping kind of Beskar sound. I'm really really pushing
Interesting.
for the Shin Hati Mandalorian angle. I'm really just kind of hoping that I'm right on that one because I haven't seen that one floating around just because like Balin wears armor too, but her armor looks so much like Mando's armor that I'm like, come on, that'd be really
Yeah.
interesting.
They
Be an
both
interesting
have
angle.
such a
It's like a
cool, like, I mean,
rivalry.
yeah, it's
Yeah, a lot of
it's
reasons.
really cool to see them they're sort of a mirror image of each other. I would say
Hmm.
yin yang, but they're both like kind of in the middle in their own way. Um
Yeah,
very, very interesting
their
stuff.
energy is like super opposite for sure. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. Even
yeah,
though it's
it's
not
really cool.
like they're not diametrically opposed in the traditional way that
No,
we think
yeah,
of, but they're very different. Yeah,
hmm
it's like chaotic good and chaotic evil as opposed to like pure
yeah,
good and evil, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Um okay, so the fight between Sabine and Shin, I'll focus on that first. I
Hmm.
really, really enjoyed in a few different ways. First of all, the lightsaber choreography is freaking back. Like
It's
I
good,
have
excellent.
you've talked a lot about how Disney doesn't understand lightsabers, and I think there's a fair critique there. I think it's intentional. At the end of the day, they just made a call, probably some suit in a boardroom that said dismemberment bad, and and it's because like you see droids get decked, and so they clearly don't like forget that lightsabers do that. So I think it's just like what happens,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
And
I
it's
put a post
sad.
out on
It's
Reddit about that actually, just to kind of confirm my own suspicions. And I mean, so there's a lot of people that think Ahsoka cut someone's arm off in episode 2 here. Um, and then Reva cut somebody's hand off pretty quickly on in Obi-Wan. And then we also see Mando more or less slice somebody in half with a dark saber. So like, criticism aside,
it's
I'm
hit or
willing to
miss.
walk that
Yeah.
back a little bit. I'm willing to walk it back. I think they don't emphasize it as much as like, episode 4 off the rip, a bloody
Yeah,
arm
and
on
the
the ground, kind
prequels
of like
for
what are
that
we
matter.
doing, right? Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's still more, it's still not as much as it was, but like, what are we gonna, it's Disney and they're trying to reach a wider audience, and it's, implied violence, and you're never going to hear me advocating for more gore and violence anyway. It's just kind of like Cal Kestis, you have a lightsaber, why can't you open that door kind of thing.
Right.
you
And
know
but in fairness, like, as the guy who has no problem advocating for sensible gore, I mean, I've watched some things and I'm like, that's much, but I wouldn't mind
yeah,
seeing a few more heads fly and whatever. I think I miss it, right? But one
yeah.
thing I will say that I missed more than that was just classic kind of prequel era
Hmm.
choreography and getting that back.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my gosh, I miss this so much. Second
Well, and
thing I
they've
want to say, oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say they lean into it. I don't want to jump the gun into the Ahsoka Balin fight, so keep going.
Yeah. So the other thing I'm going to say about the Sabine thing,
Mhm,
there's a moment or two where she uses the Force. It looks like maybe, or she was just, Shin was just expecting a Force
mhm.
push. I don't know, but she feels a little something. It looks like an
Yeah, I
ember.
have to go look.
Eh,
It seems like she's definitely trying or has the expectation that something's gonna work.
Correct. And so for whatever happens, we'll learn more or we'll analyze more. But either way, it doesn't work. And she turns around and taunts her and says, "You have no power." And then she holds her hand out and then uses I was like,
Wrist rockets!
yes. I was
Watch
like,
those wrist
that's
rockets!
so cool. I mean,
Yeah,
just
there were
like
a couple
it's like
sequences. Yeah, in this
I
particular episode where like the trailer cuts off and then you don't see like they kind of play on your expectation if you watch the trailer.
this is there's a lot of times I try to keep this show SF dub, right? And I'm gonna do it today. I'm gonna do it today, but this one is the most I've ever wanted to just curse and let it fly on this show because it's like F yes, F your expectation of me, F what you think I need to be in this moment. This is who I am, and this is what I'm gonna lean on that in my moment of need. I'm not gonna try to let the moment force me into something else like she set up in the other episode, right? Like
Mhm.
hopefully if I'm in a moment of need I'll be better, right? No, I'm not going to become something in a moment of need. I'm going to lean back on who I am and that will get me through. And it was just
Well, and
awesome.
it's really reminiscent of her duels and fights with Ezra in the Dark Saber episode of Rebels because she gets that sort of Mandalorian gear that's meant specifically for fighting Jedi, and she kind of dabs on him a little bit there. Now
Yep.
Kanan sort of puts her in her place as well, but this is the same kind of instance where she's fighting somebody who's less prepared for it, less used to that kind of thing, and it totally works. It's great, loved it.
Man, just like there were a few moments where I was just really, really enjoying it. Like again, to quote Lauren, right? She says a few times, she's like, "Yes, bitch," and so I said it right then. I stole it from her. I was like, "Yes, let's go." That's the white version of the same thing. But
The
yeah,
the only
you had a
other
note,
Yeah, the only other thought I had there was that Sabine's helmet needs a chin strap, um, because like one force push against a tree and her head helmet goes rolling. And I was like, okay, I
hundred
know
percent.
for like acting reasons, obviously, we're like, is Pedro Pascal even in the Mandalorian anymore? At this point, we don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It doesn't really matter. I understand why they can't have the helmet on. It's the same thing as like you got the Robert Downey Jr. face cam in Iron Man just to prove that he's still around. So I
Right.
get it, but then also for like a culture it's really important that their helmet doesn't come off accidentally. That's pretty bad. One force push against a tree, there goes your helmet. Hannah and
I'm
I both were
thinking
like,
of
that's pretty poor design. I'm like, she needs a chin
yeah.
strap. That's what she needs.
I'm thinking of the bonus feature from Attack of the Clones, right? Where Obi-Wan talks about how a Jedi never loses their lightsaber and it was wet so it slipped, It was
Yeah,
like yeah,
yeah.
no, you're exactly
Whoops.
right. Okay, so we'll try not to be here for 3 hours, so let's move
Yeah,
on.
no, it's okay. I'm moving
That
faster.
was an amazing sequence and I can't wait to watch it 3 more times and dive
Yeah,
in with the gang. Okay, so now let's split over. Ahsoka, she leaves. Oh no, we're moving past
yeah,
something. She fights Marok,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and
And
that
handles him in very typical Ahsoka the Inquisitor style too.
I know. It was like
Yeah,
you think who do you think you are? You think I
right.
haven't been fighting you since I was 15, like or
Yeah,
however old, you know what I mean? Like I
yeah.
have been here eating your lunch. Like
Mhm.
don't mess with me. And
Yeah.
it was done. It was
I think too,
awesome.
I said this to Hannah. There's something about Ahsoka's portrayal in this episode, and not maybe not even the portrayal. I feel like her makeup has changed or something. Something about her eyes. She doesn't feel as like harsh and cold anymore. And this is what maybe I'm just seeing what I kind of expected and wanted to see, which is her become more of herself. But I feel like this episode
Mhm.
in particular, even when she's not fighting, when she's just talking with Sabine, and I'm just kind of like looking at her as a character. I'm like, she feels more like Ahsoka now. She's like
Yeah, she's
kind of
back.
has a smirk and smile. She's not so like serious and angry even when she's fighting Balin. Even later on, it's just kind of like
Mhm.
she feels more correct to me. I don't know if that's Rosario Dawson getting more into the character, or if maybe they've just written it that way that she has kind of gotten more comfortable with the situation. But I'm like I
I'm
said, I feel
choosing
like
to
it's just
believe
getting
it's the
better.
latter. I'm
Yeah,
choosing to believe it's the
yeah,
latter,
it's
but
probably
either way,
intentional. Yeah,
I agree with you that it did get better. Um, Goodness, what was the other thing? Oh, remember the Discord? Andrew pointed out
Yep,
just before
yep,
this
yep, yep.
that his head canon is that Marok is some former person that has been reanimated with
I
Jedi
had
sister
I
magic.
literally he totally stole, or I had the same exact thought. I wrote it down when I was watching. It's like, because it was like a greenish smoke
Mm-hmm.
when he
Mm-hmm.
vanishes.
Yep. Yep.
Although, and I can't
It,
remember if we've seen that before in any other circumstance, but yeah, Marin definitely
The
does
only
stuff
thing
like
the
that.
only thing I thought of that was similar, I mean, yeah, like we saw it with Savage, right? When Savage died and stuff like that.
Mm,
So it makes
yeah,
perfect sense. It makes perfect sense, and
yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think it's canon. I'm sending it. But the other thing that I was gonna say is, I think we've seen something similar with that other Inquisitor in the Tales of the Jedi, where at least not green smoke, and that's definitely not the same thing, but like the
Hmm.
same sort of idea of like
Oh yeah, he did. He like
dissipation
shrank
of
down and
some kind.
disappeared.
Yeah,
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 it
yeah.
was
You're
really
right. In the
weird.
Tales of Jedi, that was weird.
Yeah,
I
but
thought we'd
I
seen that
don't think it's
before.
connected. I just thought it was weird.
I mean, it might be.
But
Maybe it's the same Inquisitor she keeps fighting. I don't know.
as
He's
a
got a grudge.
brief little note, I just love that Marok was nothing. I just always love that. I've
You love
been
it when things pay
fielding.
out, but also
Oh,
when things don't.
it's like a healthy balance, you know? It's like don't like make it make sense. Don't make it random. And if
Yeah.
Marok had been Star Killer or Ezra or any of the other dumbass things flying around the internet, it would have been random. It wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah.
And this is the same guy who said, I hope it's the Rakata. I hope it's not the Rakata. You know what I mean? Like a little part of me hopes it's the Rakata on the other end of the galaxy, right? No, he doesn't. It's not. I don't actually want that. I like having fun. I like theorizing, but
I mean,
that it's just make it
you
make
know,
sense.
I rewatched the end of Rebels, and so like the Purrgil basically breach the main bridge of the Star Destroyer, latch
Hmm.
on to Thrawn, and then jump to hyperspace. At this point, I'm fully expecting a fake out and just to find like two corpses floating in space and preserved, because like there's no force field or as far as I saw, a blast shield that blocked them, and I'm pretty sure hyperspace is still a vacuum. They're not just breathing air in hyperspace. I don't know, maybe not, but yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. They're going to, I mean, they probably won't explain. It's probably not important. But me and my like attempt to keep this sci-fi somehow, I'm like, isn't
No, no, no.
oxygen important? I don't know.
100%, 100%. Like this is either going to be a really huge case of the "I believe" button, as Eric says,
Yeah.
or they are going to explain it in some way, shape, or form, a la like
Or
World Between
or
Worlds or something.
trailer fake outs, because we saw at least two in this episode. We talked about this before in one of our sort of deep dives about how they have sort of obfuscated or faked things in trailers to make you think one thing when actually something else happened in the episode
Hmm.
intentionally. And there's another one that happens at this episode. The first one is sort of just a fake out because of the clipping, but with Sabine and like the "you have no power" thing, and then she shoots her wrist rockets. The other is a direct edit where when Ahsoka's fighting Balin, she pulls up her other hand to sort of force block in the trailer. Her hand is not on fire, but in this episode, he was totally like smoking and roasted.
Hmm.
And that is not something that was in the trailer. I'm like 99% sure. I have to go back and watch it. Maybe I would be wrong. You guys can correct me tomorrow,
Interesting.
but pretty positive that was an edit in the trailer where they got rid of that.
Hmm.
So who knows? Maybe Thrawn has been fake this whole time. He's not actually showing up. I'm sorry.
There's no
I won't speak
shot,
that into
right? There's
existence. I
there's
won't speak
there's
that into
no
existence.
like I'd be the guy that could maybe deal with that, but I feel like
Turns out it's a
that would
flashback.
just
Those shots were all
yeah.
flashbacks.
Yeah, we'll get to the flashback. Don't worry. All right, so let's move on.
Yep, yep, yep.
That fight goes the way that it goes. She kills Marok and then says, "I'll handle this. Don't worry about it." Ahsoka goes and chases down Balin, and I just love there wasn't much preamble. It wasn't like,
Yeah, just
let's
got
where
to.
is he? He's just sitting
Yeah.
there. And they have a little talk. They have a little banter. I loved
Get
that
Hera a little bit at some
zinger.
point.
Yeah, we'll get to Hera in a second. Sorry, yeah, you're right. But that absolute zinger of a line of like Anakin always spoke highly of you. It's like, bitch, who are you?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I
like weird.
never mentioned you. Like, oh, like, oh, so
Hannah
you
said
read
the same thing too.
Wikipedia.
And right before Ahsoka said it, my wife was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, funny he didn't mention you." And she says the same thing. We both laughed. It was great. It was
Oh,
perfect
a
format.
man, it's just like perfect. Like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness. I loved it so much. It's very much the same energy as when she fights Maul, right? Like you're lucky
Yeah.
Anakin didn't show up. He'd have killed you, right? Yeah,
Did
it's
wasn't there a joke about like, not even fighting a full Jedi or something? He's like, "That's good because I'm fighting only half a Sith or something like that." I'm pretty
I
sure
can't
that was
remember if
actually
that
a
was
line
actually
in Clone
if that was
Wars, or if that
actually
was
in
just a
Clone
meme.
Wars or if that was
I don't
a meme
remember.
with Kenobi, one or the other. Either way,
Either way,
lots of snark.
yeah, same energy,
Uh,
100%.
but the fight itself, I mean, I
Dude,
again, I'm just gushing here over and over, but
yeah.
like the way, like in Fallen Order or Survivor, you can use the sort of Claymore style
Mhm.
saber, and I
Yeah.
didn't really connect with that one that much, but this was awesome. And
So,
go ahead,
yeah, so,
yeah.
like Hannah was asking, she's like, "Why is Ahsoka using only one lightsaber?" And I was like, "Actually, it makes perfect sense because two lightsaber is not necessarily advantageous, especially when you're fighting a bigger, stronger opponent. So somebody who has more leverage, has more of a swing, and boy does Balin swing his lightsaber like he's chopping down a tree. Very Vader-esque, and the sounds
It's
that the blades were
dude, it's
making when they would screech across. Oh my gosh, it was so good. But like he fights in a way, even we haven't even seen Vader fight this way. He fought with like serious aggression and everything, and to the point where I'm like, yeah, she probably needs to keep two hands on that handle. There's no way that she's just gonna like block it with half a wrist. She's got to use both hands. Plus, what I was gonna say earlier is they really, really leaned into Filoni's sort of favorite style where he has like the Maul versus Obi-Wan rematch,
yep,
right?
yep,
Where
samurai deal, yeah.
where there's lots of like they sort of pre-position and they're like plotting out the moves and then they go, and so there's clearly
Mhm.
a lot of that. I'm sure we'll get some really great videos from other content creators kind of breaking down the stances and how
Oh
they were
yeah.
like trying to like rock paper scissors their fights before they even clashed several times. They're so cool, and obviously every single stance that they had was sort of like a callback to a different, obviously, Earth sword fighting style. You
Mhm.
had some Japanese and some very different styles there. It was really cool mixed in. Loved it so much. The fight was fantastic, and it wasn't needlessly aerobatic or acrobatic. It wasn't. There was force. In fact, I gotta watch. But there's a time when Ahsoka kind of has a foot up on a wall, and then she kicks
Mhm.
off, and then she does like two or three kicks on him, and I swear one of them is a force kick. Is like episode 6, Luke like
Yeah, yeah,
looks
yeah,
like it's a
yeah.
straight miss, but I'm like, that was a force kick. That was great. And I think that was an intentional Easter egg. That was funny because it looks just like it's just a straight up kick, just like
Yeah.
Luke does. Yeah,
Man, that's
I like that.
cool.
Has
I
to be on
didn't
purpose.
catch that one. I loved it was like slightly sped up. I feel like she was, really leaning into it, really moving around. Just the
Mhm.
choreography again, it was so
And he
prequels
was
and just
fierce. Like I said, we
oh.
haven't seen like we saw Count Dooku fight, right, and it's very elegant and almost fencing, and then we saw
Mhm.
just like some almost like insane, very force heavy fighting from Palpatine. You've got the very robotic lumbering swinging back and forth from Vader. This was a whole different kind of fighting that
This
we
yeah,
saw from Balin.
it
It's
was
like a
like the
combination of all of
energy
that. Yeah.
it was like the energy and strength of a Kylo Ren with like the
Hmm.
training of somebody who had been there and seen things, like it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like kind of what Kylo was trying to be, but
Hmm.
with more refinement and
Yeah.
lots
Plus,
of
Balin
practice.
has
Yeah.
the stature and like the
Yes.
strength to back it up too. He's huge. It's awesome.
Mm. God, it was so freaking cool. And okay, so then you get the dynamic of she thinks when she sees Shin come back, she's like,
Hmm.
Sabine's dead. And
Right.
Ahsoka goes dark. Ahsoka
A little
murks
bit.
that
Yeah.
girl. Just like
I'm
smacks
glad.
her against the
I'm
rock.
glad she did that though, and she didn't
I
force
thought
choke
she
her.
was dead.
I
I
thought she
thought
was
she
going
was
to, but
dead.
I don't know. I didn't think that she was dead, but I'm just glad she didn't force choke her because I thought that was a little bit trite. They've done that so many times, but when she just like smacks her against the rock, like there's some difference in power levels here going on. Like she
Oh
doesn't even have to
man.
spend time. Like why didn't she do that before Sabine had a chance to fight her? Just like knock her against a tree and then go. and go fight
And you
Balin
talk about,
together. I'm just saying.
like we talked about female characters doing relatable things and not like, some like that was just like, oh my God, just act. And it was
Yeah.
awesome, just
Bam.
power. And it
He's
was
done.
so, so cool. And just God, I loved it so, so much. And then you see Balin switch, right? Balin
Hmm.
clearly deeply cares for her. And so he turns it on and just
Yeah.
wails on Ahsoka. And Ahsoka
Yeah.
finds herself dangling over the cliff and does not see Sabine come back, if my memory serves, right? Or no.
No,
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 she
she
does.
does because
Sabine
she
runs
tells
right
Sabine to
up.
shoot it, which seems like
Yeah,
a
that's
really
right.
terrible
That's right.
idea to shoot the. And we're both like, this seems like a really bad idea to shoot this thing in your bare hand, but whatever.
Well, at least, destroy it in one way,
It
shape,
wasn't
or
going to
form,
happen
right?
anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, we all had a suspicion. Yeah, I misremembered that. But yeah, so then she gets knocked off, and we all think, okay, she's survived, right?
Yeah.
But she's not dead. It's
I mean,
Ahsoka,
the
and that's
show's called
episode 4.
Ahsoka. They
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
can't kill her off in
But
episode 4.
but still, it's a we're wondering, and so now we're left with
Yeah.
Sabine.
How and where, and also just like how the heck did she get to where she was going and what happened?
Go
Um,
ahead,
I
elaborate.
don't know. I'm just saying, like, what the heck? I actually thought before you said you thought Force Ghost caught her. I thought she was going to have been caught by a Purgo because obviously this is how they're going to chase after
Sorry,
them.
sorry. No, I'm gonna cut you off. Let's
Yeah,
not get there
go
yet.
back
Let's
there.
handle the terrestrial side first. Um, let's handle that.
Yeah, so Sabine shows
So
up and she's more or less seduced in the exact same way that everybody is by the dark side and the temptations of the attachments and everything, and it was perfect. And Balin turns it on, but he's also such an interesting guy because you're like, I shouldn't trust him because he's wearing all black and he has a red lightsaber. But at the same time, he seems like he's rather honorable as a person, which is cool to see.
he's
Not a
very
Sith.
he's more Dooku than
He's like a
lots of others that
pragmatist.
we've seen.
Yeah,
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 he's like
very much
it's
Dooku like.
and it's awesome to have that back because this is all the stuff that we like about the Thrawns and the Thrawn acolytes and
Hmm.
hey, like Thrawn's not a good guy. I love the dude, but he's not the guy you want running the show, right? He
Hmm.
allies himself with bad people, this ruthless pragmatism type deal, but is very much not mustache twirling evil power,
Yeah.
yada yada yada. He thinks he's doing it for the right reason, and Balin seems to be cut from that same cloth. And I'm very excited to see they alluded to some stuff that
Yeah, still not clear what Balin's goal is, I think.
well,
I
yeah,
don't
and
know.
I'm not either, right? But they alluded to some things in there about how we need to destroy in order to create, and Thrawn's going to
Hmm.
start a war, and he agrees with the war that Thrawn's going to start. It seems like,
Well, it seems like
and
he's in it for whatever the outcome is that he sees as a net positive, and I'm not sure what that is. If he's just well, we also got that Balin said he lost his faith a long time ago, which is also interesting because is
yep,
this like a thing against the Force that he has specifically?
could be
Um, is it
or
the Mortis gods? I feel like that needs to come up more often in our conversations because we talk
yep,
about Night
it's
Sisters a lot, but
it's going
that's
to.
pretty
Yeah.
heavily, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty important.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I'm wondering if it's so in Legends, Thrawn's whole thing was I don't love the Empire, but it's the best the galaxy has to
Yeah, I
prevent
need the Empire. Yeah,
yeah, like other stuff, right?
yeah.
You know
It
about
was
the
to his
Vong, you
benefit
know
for the
about other
Empire to be
things.
strong and to more or less be a shield for whatever he calls the opposite of lesser space. I can't remember greater space, the chaos.
Well, so this is canon Thrawn. I'm talking about Legends Thrawn, heir to the Empire.
Um,
Because this is it's very important for him to have look, authoritarianism is relentlessly efficient, right? Like that's just like people always all the neo-Nazi twerps will always say like the trains ran on time, right? And all that stuff. Well, yeah, like that's the
the Empire
thing
was nothing
about
if not efficient.
That exactly, right? So
Yeah.
that's what these people are trying to do. There's a sick and pragmatic way that you can look at it, and that's what Thrawn's whole thing was, right? Like the Empire is
Mhm.
efficient, and we need that because a bigger bad is coming, and all that
Mhm.
sort of stuff. Winter is coming, so on and so forth. Um, and so you got inklings of that here, and while I love it because it's very clear that these are not good guys, and anybody that's like Thanos did nothing wrong is, we need them. But it's a way more interesting villain. It's a way more interesting discussion than like I want power and money and yeah, you know what I mean. It's a cool dynamic, and I'm glad we got inklings of that here. I just really love Balin, and I can't wait
Yeah,
to
I
learn more
agree.
about him. He's an awesome
I think I
character.
think I could pull him off into the cosplay. I got a gray
Yeah,
outfit.
right? Like,
I was kind of like,
it's
I could do that.
it's thick boy season where
Yeah, exactly. I was literally exactly what I was thinking, like, characters that I don't have to fit into armor of a guy who's like 6 foot tall and also 100 pounds. Excellent.
Yes,
I could pull it
yes,
off.
it's our time, brother. It is our time. Um all
This
right.
is
So
body positivity. I love it.
exactly. We have criminally ignored the Hera angle of this, and so let's remedy that now. Hera is a pretty big part of this episode, even though she's overshadowed by all the other amazingness. Um, she has her Rogue One moment, her Admiral
Mhm,
Raddus
mhm.
moment, and says, "Screw it, I'm gonna go." And five X-wings go with her, if my memory serves, five or six.
Yep,
Either
yep,
way,
yep.
a smattering.
Mm, yep,
You get
including
Carson Teva,
Carson okay, yeah,
yeah, however they pronounce it,
can't remember.
Carson,
Yeah,
and then
was
a host
excellent.
of other action figures that Eric will buy,
I was gonna say,
and
bunch of red shirts. Yeah, excellent. Gotta
yeah,
love them.
right. That's exactly as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, it's gonna be great when Eric buys that whole gift set and then knows all their names because I gotta know their names too for trivia and stuff. But like, they're not gonna make it, and then they didn't because
Nope.
we had a
Nope.
really interesting thing happen here, though, right? Kind of
Yeah, this was
Holdo
the most
2.0, man. I'm
right.
I'm
This was, I think,
curious.
even more controversial than what comes after. I think this is going to tear up the internet a little bit. It tore me up a little bit too because so I was all on the bandwagon after the Haldo maneuver of everyone saying, "Well, heck, if that works, strap some hyperspace engines to asteroids because that sounds like and seems like the most effective weapon we've ever seen in Star Wars, even more so even than Death Star tech. In fact, the High Republic series makes a pretty big mess of hyperspace accidents, wiping out entire planets." In a
Hmm.
way that they try to make it seem like it was an accident, but was in fact entirely intentional and coordinated. So like hyperspace weapons seem pretty effective, and then the one positive thing I think Rise of Skywalker did was sort of retcon or just solve that problem for me when they're like, oh no, that was we can't do that again, that was a once in a lifetime, that was a once in a million shot. Well, now it's twice in a million shot. At least it wasn't quite as bad, but the hyperspace weight, I
Yeah, that's what it looked
guess,
like. Got
gravitational
caught in the gravity well.
vacuum.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening. I was kind of just expecting because don't we see Hera jump hyperspace jump through a hangar bay in Rebels? Doesn't
if
she
my
do that?
memory serves. Yeah, it's
And that
vague.
kind
I
of makes
can't
sense that it would
remember.
just sort of like, there's a vacuum of space as you move through, so that's fine. I was kind of just expecting the big ring to go around them because it's so big that, a Star Destroyer can fit in the middle of it.
I
I kind of
think that's
just
what
figured they're just
happened.
gonna go whoop. But like, I don't know. I don't know. The fact that
Isn't
they can
that
do
isn't
that and
that
they
what
were
happened?
moving, I don't know. I'm not sure because it didn't look exactly like it hit them. But either way, there was some sort of like effects that happened that disrupted the ships and blasted them apart and knocked them around. And again, my question is, well, if that's how hyperspace works, we already kind of know that hyperspace lanes, you got to stay out of hyperspace lanes because when ships drop out of hyperspace, they're going to be going so fast you can't avoid them. You don't know the exact location. Not even really sure how all that works, except for like the buoys and beacons seem to help coordinate the sort of landing zones there. But like when ships jump to hyperspace, they should really more or less be going so fast that they couldn't possibly hit you in that same way. But I don't know. I don't know how this works. And again, I'm sort of back to this creates sort of a dangerous actual science fiction problem for Star Wars that they like to avoid, which is that this seems like a rather effective weapon they should be using more often. Just hyperspace jumping past, large ships jumping past small ones. Different from like Rogue One, where Star Destroyer jumps in and just collides with another ship immediately, which was also
Mm-hmm.
really cool to see. But
Yep. Yep.
yeah, I don't know. I think that one's going to tear up the internet. I think you're going to see a lot of those clickbait articles. Screen Rant, looking at you, comicbook.com, you guys are going to be like,
Oh,
oh, Ahsoka episode 4 breaks Star Wars canon forever,
yeah.
stuff like that. We're just going to see
So all the
a
Reddit
crap ton
warriors
of
can
that
come out
stuff.
and be like,
Yeah.
Star Wars hasn't been good since X year when I enjoyed it and was still a kid at heart. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're right.
But I
Yeah, it's
mean,
brutal, but
putting all that aside,
yep.
once again, perfect lead up, knew it was going to happen, saw it coming, very glad it happened, looked really cool. Maybe that'll be a warm take at some point later on, but I thought it
Yeah,
was really
no,
cool.
I'm curious to see more of kind of what happens, and explanations of what happened, and I'm sure we'll get it. Well, I'm intrigued. My initial thought was that this thing blew past, and like you said, some kind of hyperspace wake situation happened,
Hmm.
and ion disruption, whatever you want to call it. And then they crashed into each other.
Hmm.
That's what I
Yeah.
took.
But did they
Um,
did it go literally around them, or did it just go past them? Because again, all this sort of is
I
new
thought
for
you got six
hyperspace.
ships, right? You got six little ships, and you got a
Hmm.
massive ring, and it said
Yeah.
they were in front of them. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at it as right, but I don't know. Maybe it was some kind of vortex smashed them into each other, and I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
But Hera was great in this episode. I know I've heard people say they don't like her, and fair enough. I've bought her from the start. I
Completely
really enjoy her.
undistracting. Did exactly
Yeah,
what you expected Hera to do, and
I like
again,
her a
glad
lot.
she
And
did it.
Jason too, getting to see Jason. The whole bad feeling thing. I'm like, all right, I know we're contractually obligated to say that, but all right.
As
I
a
thought
as
he
a
had like
parent, oh,
I
go
thought he
ahead. Go
had
ahead.
like something stuck. Like I thought he was gonna be like, Mom, I don't feel so good, like Mr. Stark type deal. But
Oh gosh.
yeah, right. I was like, Andy, protect yourself. But
Oh
yeah,
gosh.
no, it didn't seem to be that way. But yeah, interesting stuff. I liked Tara. I liked Jason, or
I
at
was gonna
least
joke.
I'm not over the moon about them two compared to the rest of what's going on. But I
Well,
was inoffended by them. I thought it
yeah,
was cool.
agreed. Completely
Yeah.
unoffensive, undistracting from the episode. No, I was gonna joke about her advice when they get on their ship, and he's like, "Mom, how come I have to follow the rules, but you don't?" And she was like, "Well, when you become a general, you can break the rules too." And I was like, as a new parent, not great advice. She should have said, "Listen, you can break the rules all you want to right now, bub. You're just gonna have to live with the consequences, like I'm about to." You know, I
Yeah,
feel like that
fair
would have been a
enough.
much better lesson for little Jason. And then we're like, "Buckle up and try me, son. See what happens if you don't."
Yeah.
That's kind of what
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting from the angle, not just like, "Oh, don't worry. When you grow up, you can break all the rules too. No worries." Like that's not really how life works,
Yeah,
Hera. Bad
just like
parenting
hope
moment.
that no, you're right, you're right. That's a good way to put it, and I think they would have been better served to have that in there. Actually, I agree 100%. But yeah, no, good stuff there. All right, let's do it. Let's handle the big one. Because yeah, everything's they jumped.
Oh,
Sabine is on the Eye of Sion with them, which was kind of a development. So Sabine
yeah.
is going to be wherever they go. And all the bads minus Marok and some droids
Well,
and red
Marok's gonna
shirts get
come with
away.
because he's a Night Sister ghost thing, whatever. So I'm sure
I
he'll
feel
be
like
there.
he's dead. My understanding is that when that stuff happens, it's the stuff that's reanimating them, right? Like,
I disagree. So we'll see. But I think if he died, we would have seen it kind of fizzle up into the air. But instead, it sort of like coalesces and travels and goes away. It like clearly looks like it's going somewhere else. I think he's going to reappear. I
you might
almost
be
wonder if
right.
he's going to be a what's Dirge, that species, if he's going to be something kind of like that.
Mm,
uh, Something
I
that's
doubt it
very
though.
difficult to kill. I not that same species, but like something that's
Oh,
sort of a
okay, okay.
reoccurring bad, if not.
What if he's
Yeah,
Star Killer? What if he's Ezra as a green? Think about that.
no, 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 no. Barris, because green skin. green smoke.
I am
Clearly
Miri
Sparrow.
all in on that theory.
Oh, that was good. All right, one before we move on to like the giant space whale in the room. Hyperspace comms was an interesting concept, also again from the sci-fi angle. I have we heard
This
this?
is
Have
your
we seen
least
this happen
attractive
before?
angle.
I know,
This
I'm
is your
sorry,
least
but
attractive
have
angle.
we the fact that they were communicating via hyperspace and their messages were going faster than they were traveling in hyperspace, so they were like talking about like, oh, we're already here, and then you see them jump out of hyperspace. The fact that they were sort of communicating ahead of them, I thought that was a weird thing. I don't know if we've seen that before in Star
We
Wars.
have I would be shocked. I can't like, call it to mind, but I am almost like so certain that we have 100% seen people talk to other people via like in hyperspace before, right? Like
Yeah,
is that
I'm sure in the books it's happened just incidentally, but
I'm
I'm not
pretty
sure we've
sure
ever
in
seen
like
it in the
in
movies or in the shows. I don't know. I don't know.
movies I'm like 20%
I'll
sure,
ask
maybe
Reddit. We'll find
10%
out.
sure. The TV shows I'd bet some pretty hardy money. Books 100%. Like I'm
Yeah, it's a
sure it's
good point.
happened.
I feel like I literally just saw in the Rebels finale, Thrawn is communicating to Governor Price and is like, I'm already on my way, and so clearly would have to be
Yeah.
in hyperspace if he's doing that. But I don't
Yeah.
know. It just
But
seems
anyway,
odd.
it
Yep.
doesn't matter. I believe button is there
All
ready
right,
for
we're
me
back
if
to
it
to
creates a
another
problem.
fake out death. So let's get to that one.
Correct. So let's do it, right? So we're like, where did she go? And I'm like, okay, she's not dead, And I don't think they
Duh.
were trying
Yeah.
to make us think she was. It's just like, where is she,
I
right?
know.
So we pan over, the water slowly turns to not water, and I
Stars.
was like I
It's
said,
full of stars.
I was thinking Anakin's Force Ghost had caught her, maybe.
Hmm.
And you were thinking whales.
I thought cargo.
Either
I
way,
thought that. Well, because again, how else are they going to get to
Bendu.
Thrawn and Ezra? It's the only. Well, yeah. But like, how else are they going to do? They're going to do the same thing that they did with Ezra. Ahsoka's going to summon the Force and the whales, and they'll latch onto the Ghost, and they'll go chase after them to go rescue everybody. Like it's going to happen. They're not just going to leave Sabine in another galaxy and have them show up, and Ahsoka's just sitting over here twiddling her thumbs until she comes back.
Yeah,
Like,
Ahsoka's gonna be riding a Purrgil next week. I swear that's what's gonna happen. She's gonna have her spacesuit on, and she's just gonna
you
like,
heard it.
yep, that's
Oh
yep.
yeah, Dune style, like riding the from the outside, right? Riding the whales like a yep,
Da, da, da,
like a
da, da,
sandworm.
da, da.
Oh, I love
All
this
the
even better
fandoms.
now.
Let's do it.
Excellent,
Oh man.
excellent. We got to make that meme now. It's like Ahsoka
Yeah.
on her way to rescue Sabine. It's just a space whale instead of a sandworm. All right, well,
All
we got
right.
that one out.
But okay, so but that doesn't happen. And what actually happened was she wakes up in the world between worlds. And, she's been there before, so she doesn't look around all wide-eyed mercifully. She looks around and is like, trying to figure it out. She thinks probably like, am I
Your
dead? Is this
friggin' snips in the background.
here snips? And then you hear it more clearly, and she turns around and she sees Hayden Christensen
Master.
as I got nothing. I mean, what do you want? Like I in the moment, all I could think was just elation and euphoria. And I mean, you know, I'm in
Hannah and I
tears.
were distracted by his eyebrows. They were a little too on fleek, if you ask us, but otherwise very excited.
I, I don't even. I had like tunnel vision. I was just locked in, and
It would have been cool
like
though if
euphoric
we saw him in
adrenaline
Clone
of that
Wars
moment.
here. I don't know. So we saw him the last time she technically saw him which was in his episode 3 sort of attire. But I thought it'd be
Yeah,
cool if he had his Clone Wars armor. Saw him because obviously the last time we saw him in canon, unfortunately, is episode 6 in his appearance that way. So he had kind of robes on. It wasn't in his episode 3 gear so much. But
yeah. Well,
anyway,
I mean, I think
nitpicks.
they can
Force
they
Ghosts
can
can appear
appear.
however the heck they want,
That's right. That's right.
which
I'm
is why I
choosing to believe
wanted
that.
Clone Wars armor. But anyway,
Well, he didn't appear to you, but I don't know. I
well,
don't
if I
know. We'll
was
see.
writing the show,
I don't know. I'm
space
intrigued.
whales.
as I begin I love it. As I begin to think instead of just purely feel regarding this, I am very intrigued by the whole world between worlds angle. Is this sort of like the netherworld of the force kind of progression of
Is
canon? Is
she
it sort of,
already dead?
is she dead? Is this a King's
Is
Cross
she
Harry Potter
immortal?
situation? Is
Is
she the
she?
daughter? Is she like, there's like,
Yeah,
is she
she's the
in a way,
incarnation of the Mortis gods. Yeah,
there's a lot
so many
here.
questions.
There's
How
a
the heck did she
lot
get
here.
there? But so this does, well, it does sort of bring to light.
Morai the bird,
Um,
right?
yeah, where is Morai anyway? Where's Morai been? Um, because they also insinuate Morai is the daughter at a certain
Or
point.
at least,
Um,
yeah, like, yeah,
yeah, they
somehow
sort of, yeah.
connected.
But so Balin towards the beginning of this episode, when Morgan, when she starts the map, he sort of looks at it and goes, witchcraft. And so
Hmm.
I feel like that's always been the assumption we've been operating off of, is that this map and everything here has been sort of related to the Night Sisters because she's able to operate it. But we also see him at the end operate it just the same way. He doesn't have to do the
Hmm.
kind of thing. He just drops the sphere and it turns on. So um, I'm wondering now, again, with the world between worlds being linked in, if this whole thing is all related. Like, we've been thinking, okay, ancient civilization or Night Sisters or extra galactic empire or whatever. Maybe this is all still related to the Mortis gods. I think that's more on brand for
And,
Filoni. But
and here's the thing, right? Like this, I don't know, maybe I'm an idiot and this, I'm having the revelation that so many others have had already, but like when Disney announced those movies, right? All the different movies, I was like, there's no way this stuff's connected. Right? You got the Old
mhm,
Republic, or like the old Prime Jedi stuff,
mhm,
Filoni's movie, and then New Jedi Order, right? But
mhm.
if you're talking like Mortis gods, I don't know how Rey's thing would play in that one. We'll still have yet to
Why
see,
not?
but like you can
Well,
see
she's a
a
Force
through
dyad,
line.
so
Yeah, fair enough. But you can see a through line 100% between Mortis God's original, origin story type deal and the Filoni movie. Like, I don't know. If this is really going in that mystic way, it could totally do
oh,
that.
I just remembered a separate thing we totally skipped over. Sabine's family's dead.
You're
That's
right.
dude.
And
That
and
sucks.
yeah,
They
and
died
they
probably the night
died.
of 1,000 tears. Probably.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's
Gideon and
rough.
all that,
And
and Ahsoka
also,
wasn't there. Ahsoka
right.
left her.
This may be, well, maybe this is Sabine left Ahsoka because of that, because she had to go fight in the whatever, her planet was being destroyed, and Ahsoka was pulling the whole Jedi detachment thing. Was like, no, you don't have a planet anymore. You're a Jedi. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting drama that is real, but that like really sucks because we sort of knew her family. Um, we kind of grew with them, and she had we saw a lot of episodes of how she was totally estranged from them and had to make up with them, and she had sort of harmed her whole culture, and then kind of won back favor and everything, and now they just died, and that's really
So
sad. It's a
so and
whole that's a
here's
whole
the
thing.
thing. This is what I kind of wanted to bring up to kind of tie it together, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow. But
I
like,
got to get my thoughts out now if I'm not going to be there. So
yeah, no, right? And I want to kind of put this bug in your ear, and kind of, to the extent that anyone cares, the internet's ear, and so the topic of this show being for sweaties like us, right?
hmm,
Like, fair enough, it
hmm,
is. There's a lot of
hmm,
things that are not explained initially. But in my first reaction, I said this whole Ahsoka Sabine element is
yeah,
very much
leveling the playing
for
field.
us, yeah, what they're experiencing, right? And I think that in this episode, we got resolution, or at least more breadcrumbs on that trail. And I think of watching this with Lauren, right? When the world between worlds happens, she says, "What's that? What's going on?" Right? And I'm, because she sees my reaction and everything too. On one hand, I'm crying because I know I'm about to see Anakin, right? So I'm 30 seconds ahead of you, and that's it, right? Like, it's not like I said, it's like, I don't know all the implications of what's going on here. I don't know how it connects to what I've seen before. All I know is where we are. So again, I'm like 30 seconds ahead of you. It's not like I've got this whole encyclopedic knowledge of what's going to happen, much in the way of like if this was an adaptation of the Thrawn trilogy, right? Like if this was Game of Thrones or something, I could really read the room. But so I'm kind of curious, and we're not the right people to talk about this for sure. But like, I'm curious the take of this is just deep cut lore fan service stuff. It's like I wonder if we just are like a week ahead, just like let it all play out. I wonder how it will, and if the casual fan can just jump right in, and if we're going to have a new generation of kind of Andes who start here and then go back and watch Rebels and get their mind blown, much in the same way that she started, and then went back and did other things. Thoughts? You seem to be muted, my friend.
It's important. So here's something that you might think about too for the discussion tomorrow. But something Hannah asked me while watching this episode. It's a really basic question. She's seen Rebels and she's seen these other things, but she had a really basic question, which is, why does it matter that Thrawn's coming back? Why would this change anything? If the Empire is defeated, if the Empire's scattered, if there is no army left, there is no Empire left, how come Thrawn coming back, this major general coming back to this army, why does this change anything? Why is this like an assured war is going to happen? And then something that we understand because we know who Thrawn is outside of Rebels, and we know what happens, and we know some more other context. I mean, I haven't even read the original canon books, but like I understand the implications. But even to people who are more than probably a casual fan like Hannah is, she's seen all of Rebels and all these other content. Even she's kind of like, yeah, I don't, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm watching, but I don't understand why this even matters at all. So yeah, I think it's an interesting point too, where at some level you're like, yeah, you might be a couple episodes ahead, but you really don't know either. And then there's other things where I think you do sort of have the advantage that they're leaning on, which is like you understand the threat of Thrawn, like the characters understand the threat of Thrawn, but like you'd have to be pretty deep into the lore to really understand why this matters at all.
But what I'm getting at is, does that matter, right? Like, is there not
No,
enough to
it's
guide
written
you
well.
through the end of the show, right? Like
You just
sometimes,
understand that's, yeah. They say it's bad. You're
yeah.
like, okay, I don't know why, but okay, it's bad.
And then, but then, again, at the end of this, if they don't show why it's bad, then fair enough, right? But I think of Avengers, right? Like I didn't know who Thanos was
Right.
from Adam, and but I saw that people were spooked, and
Mm-hmm.
then I saw the big bad of the movie that I was watching report to him and grovel, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we see all those things, and it kind of sets it up, and I think that's kind of what's happening here. It's like I don't need to,
Yeah.
it's the show don't tell angle, right? Like I see
Yep.
that
Yep.
Ahsoka and Sabine had issues, and then we don't need to hear about it, and then of course we hear later from Balin some exposition, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm waiting with rapt attention. I can't wait. This show has just been a constant like incline,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it'll
Agreed.
be able to keep it up, but I sure hope so, given who lives whoop, wrong hand, sorry, mirrors freak me out. But who lives behind me on this display here, and yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see Thrawn. I don't
What?
know what we're gonna get next week, because we are officially, aside from the clip of Thrawn, correct me if I'm wrong, we're out of trailer footage now, right? Like there's nothing.
Yeah.
We got
Besides
all the
the
duels.
yeah, besides the clips of Thrawn, I think so.
Yeah, that's it.
Um,
So they could do anything.
one last thing. Do you watch with subtitles?
Yes.
Okay, so then you also caught at the very end there, if you didn't just hear it, we see Anakin, but then when it fades to black, the music changes to Vader's theme, which was really
Mm-hmm.
interesting implication there too. So there's all sorts of questions here. If Vader's, or if Anakin is going to be sort of this, like, I don't want to say spastic, but like kind of torn between his light and dark side, and kind of giving her good advice and bad advice, and could see this really cool sort of two-faced force presence, which is
There's
not how
like
he appears in some of the books. He's pretty just straightforward Obi-Wan kind of force ghost,
there's a whole
helpful
litany of
advice
ways
ex
it could
machina. But
go
yeah, I
because
really like the Vader foreboding music though, because you're like, "Yay, Anakin!" You're like, "Why is it playing the Vader theme? Wait a minute."
right. It's the TikTok, well, like Jennifer Lawrence. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like from Hot Ones. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, and that's the beautiful thing about this, man. We're right back in it, and
Yep.
it seems like such a healthy place for the fandom to be, and I can't wait to lose faith in humanity in 72 hours when I read the internet from all the
Right.
usual suspects that you
Uh,
mentioned. But they're never going to take this moment. They're never going to take it, and I want to close by just saying that this is I can tell that this episode is going to be on the sort of top 10. Whenever I want to go back and feel something, I'm going to watch this, just like I watch Vader and Kenobi at the end of that show, just like I watched the Clone Wars saved panel when they made that, when they revealed Thrawn. Some of these moments always make you just so happy to be part of this universe, and
yeah.
I'm just so grateful we got another one of this
This episode, it
caliber.
was just chocked full. Yeah, it was nonstop.
Yeah.
This episode is excellent. Anybody who
Do you
complained
have
about the
any?
pacing of the first couple episodes is going to be in for a treat with this one for sure.
Honestly, and that's why I think like a lot of these are meant to be. You got to judge this whole thing as a season. Like I can't wait. We got to talk about it and all this sort of stuff. But when people review episodes like their movies, I just it's like, come on, man. Like, review the time you had, talk about it intra episode, but you
Mm.
can't expect to get everything out of one. So anyway, that's a rant. But um, tell me what you think. Final thoughts, and then we'll go to sleep.
Oh, I'm just excited to see where it goes. Like I said, I think this is going to be a fan favorite. Little bit of controversy, unnecessarily so, about some of the hyperspace stuff, Anakin appearing, all that. But otherwise, I don't think anybody's going to find too much to complain. Well, it's the internet, but the fans will find little to complain about. All the action and the things that we saw pay out, the way this is just so truly Star Wars. It was just an excellent episode.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. I loved it. And we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow with the whole gang, and we'll dive in either tomorrow or Thursday. Yeah, hey, it's up in the air, but we'll figure it out. We'll be back with a bigger crew, and we'll talk about it more in more detail on program.